Okay, so have you ever been on a project, at work, at school, where it looks super simple on paper, but the second people got involved, it just exploded into this huge, complicated mess? Well, today we're going to break down a really powerful framework that explains exactly why that happens. We're diving into something called activity systems analysis, drawing from the amazing work of Lisa C. Yamagata-Lynch. By the end of this, you're going to have a totally new way to see all the invisible forces that shape our world.
So here's what we've got on tap. We'll start with why we need to see the whole picture. Then we'll get into the tools we think with. After that, it's the main event, the activity system blueprint. We'll look at how these systems actually change. And finally, we'll wrap up by looking at the world through this incredible new lens.
All right, first things first, seeing the whole picture. Let's dig into the fundamental problem that this entire way of thinking was created to solve. I mean, it's a question we've all asked, right? You've got a clear goal, you've got a good team, maybe you're launching a new product. But somewhere along the line, it just gets messy and tangled. Why? Well, it turns out the answer has a lot to do with how we've been taught to look at problems in the first place.
You know, the old way of looking at a problem is to kind of take it apart, right? You study each little piece in isolation. It's like staring at a single gear and trying to figure out how a whole engine works. It just doesn't give you the full picture. But activity systems analysis, it flips that completely on its head. It says, nope, to really get what's going on, you have to look at the entire context, the whole system, all at once.
So, let's get to the core idea behind all of this. It's actually a pretty simple but profound insight about how we interact with the world. It's the single seed that this whole system grew from.
And it all starts with a psychologist named Lev Vygotsky. He came up with this game-changing idea that we never just do things. Our thoughts and actions are always filtered through or shaped by something else. He called this mediation. And those mediators? They're the tools we use. And that could be a physical hammer, a bit of software, or something as abstract as language itself.
This slide just shows that evolution perfectly. On the left, that's Vygotsky's simple starting point. You've got a subject who uses a tool to act on an object. Simple. But then, a scholar named Engeström came along and said, wait a minute, we don't do things in a social vacuum. So he expanded it, adding in all the crucial social stuff, the community, the rules, the roles, to build the much richer, more realistic system you see on the right.
And that brings us right to the heart of it all, the blueprint. This is the model, the map that lets us deconstruct and understand pretty much any complex human activity you can think of.
So this is Engeström's triangle. Now, I know it might look a little intimidating, but it's really just a map with 6 key landmarks. To make it less abstract, let's walk through each one using a running example. Let's imagine a remote team trying to launch a new software product.
Okay, first up is the subject. In our example, the subject is the product launch team. All the engineers, the designers, the marketers, they're the who of the system. We're looking at this whole situation from their point of view. Now, what is that team trying to do? They're focused on the object. And listen, the object isn't just the software. It's the whole purpose, the motive. It's about successfully launching a product that people love because it solves a real problem for them. That's the why. So how do they work on that object? Well, they use tools. For our remote software team, their tools are things like Slack for chatting, Jira for tracking tasks, their shared coding languages, and even their marketing plans and design principles. These are the instruments that make the work possible.
Now we get to the bottom of the triangle, the social foundation. First up, we have rules. These are the obvious things, like the project deadline or the budget, but they're also the unwritten, implicit rules, like the company culture that expects you to answer emails at 10 p.m.
Next to that is the community. And this is way broader than just the launch team. The community includes their managers, the sales team who has to actually sell this thing, the customer support reps, and of course the end users. Everyone who has a stake in that object is part of the community.
And finally, we have the division of labor. This is about who does what. Sure, the engineers write code, the designers make mock-ups. But just as importantly, it's about power and hierarchy. Who gets to make the final call on a new feature? Who has the authority to approve the marketing spend? That's all baked into the division of labor.
Okay, so that's the system laid out. But here's the thing. Systems don't just sit there. They move, they evolve. So what's the hidden force that actually drives all that change and innovation? Now get ready for a really interesting and counterintuitive idea. In this way of thinking, all the friction, the conflicts, the little inconsistencies, they aren't problems you need to stamp out. No, they are the very source of development. The system actually needs that tension to grow.
So if conflict is the engine, what's the spark? What's the thing that actually kicks off the innovation and pushes the whole system to become something different, something better?
The framework has a special name for that spark: contradictions. It's just a way of describing those tensions between different parts of the system. Let's go back to our software team to make this real. Imagine a conflict between the rules and the object. The team's object is to innovate fast, but a company rule demands a slow, bureaucratic approval process. See the clash? That's a contradiction. Or a mismatch between tools and goals. Their goal is seamless remote teamwork, but their project management tool is clunky and outdated. Total mismatch. Or here's a big one: tension between the community and the division of labor. The engineers are siloed over here, totally cut off from marketing. So they built things that customers don't actually want. These aren't just mistakes, they're opportunities. They're the grit in the oyster that creates the pearl. Okay, so let's zoom back out. Now that we have the pieces, let's see how this framework gives us this powerful new way to see the world, not as a bunch of random events, but as a giant interconnected web.
And this is the really critical point. No single activity system is an island. A teacher's classroom, a company's sales department, a hospital ER, they are all constantly bumping up against, interacting with, and being shaped by dozens of other systems around them.
This diagram shows that perfectly. Think of it this way. The school district's board meeting is one activity system, right? The decisions they make there, their outcome, well, that outcome becomes a brand new rule or a new tool in the teacher's classroom activity system. Seeing how these systems feed into each other is how you start to see the real big picture.
And that's the whole point. This isn't just some abstract theory for academics. As this quote says, it's a truly powerful, practical lens you can use to make sense of the complex stuff we all deal with every single day. At work, in school, in our communities, you name it.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Now that you have this new lens, I want you to look around at your own world, your job, your team projects, even a community group you're in. What are the hidden tensions you can now see? What are the unseen contradictions between the tools you use, the rules you follow, and the goals you're trying to reach? Because finding them, well, that might just be the key to unlocking your next big change.